What's good, everybody? It's your brother Mad Black, the most dangerous and the most toxic black man on the internet. And I am black up in your face again with some more pro black commentary. So, a very interesting news story that I just accidentally found, actually. And the person I saw reporting on it was the YouTuber Melanie King. And I normally don't watch her content because I know she's like uh, a female manosphere cheerleader, I guess you could call it, or I know she was like a big cheerleader of Kevin Samuels and whatnot. Even tried to kind of uh, squeeze off some of his fame and popularity for her own channel. But on this particular news story, I do appreciate her bringing it to everyone's attention because I think it's something that is worthy for black content creators to talk about. And it is the story of these two white females from Kentucky who decided to go on a girls' trip to the Bahamas, and they claim that on their last day in the Bahamas, they got sexually assaulted by some black males down there, right? And they came back here and they did the typical white female boohoo crying, talking about it's funny, like the way that the news reported the story and like how every news outlet let these women tell their story is almost like a Lifetime movie or something like that. Like the Bahama BBC trip gone bad or something like that. It just seems kind of silly and a little over the top and overly dramatic. And I'll be honest, every time I've seen these women tell their story, it does come off a little bit like they're it's like a dramatization or like they're lying. It doesn't come off very truthful in my humble opinion. Now they could be telling the truth. I don't know. All right, because we don't have all the evidence yet. I'll give them that. But just the way that they're telling the story seems kind of, like I said, like a Lifetime movie or something you would see on one of those reality TV shows. Because they start off by telling the story how they've been friends forever, and they just want to have a nice trip by themselves without their children and without their husbands. And they said they'll just go, two of them by themselves, on this cruise to the Bahamas, and everything was going to be okay. And somebody drugged them or put a drug in their drink. They drank it, and then they got taken to like some secluded beach area and sexually assaulted. They don't say exactly what happened. They just say sexually assaulted. I haven't seen any reports on exactly what happened yet. But, they've been telling their story on any media outlet that will have them. And of course, they're white females, so everyone's going to want to listen. And, it's come out that the actual resort is kind of upset that they're doing this because they said that nothing actually happened to these women, and they have counter evidence to what these women are claiming. So we're going to take a look at this story, and what I'm going to do is first I'm going to talk about the news story itself, and I might play some clips from the actual news media, and then I will do more of a kind of a heart-to-heart talk with black men, because I think this is very important for black men to pay attention to stories like this and have an understanding about our relationships with the white female. So let's start off with the news story itself, and we're going to play the initial news story where these women first came out, and it got all the way to Good Morning America. It was on local news in Kentucky, but now it's reached national news status at this point. Even Nancy Grace is doing stories about this. So let's listen to the first official news story from Good Morning America.
Travel warning: two women were drugged and assaulted while on vacation in the Bahamas, unaware the state patrolman had issued a travel advisory in the area. Eva Pilgrim has the story. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, George. These two moms say they thought they were doing all the right things to be safe. They were in a pair. They didn't take drinks from strangers. They weren't drinking in excess. But this morning, they say their drinks were drugged at a Bahamian resort and they were attacked. The FBI now investigating. Amber Shearer and Dengalia Dobson were on their first kids-free vacation on board a Carnival cruise.
We've been best friends for over 20 years, and we decided we were going to make this our girls' trip.
On the last day of their trip, they stopped at a local resort on Grand Bahama Island, a resort they say the cruise ship recommended. Once there, the mothers claimed they were offered a 2-for-1 drink, which they accepted, but immediately fell ill.
After the first drink, we had to get out of the ocean because we noticed that it was just hitting so hard.
Well, then you did take a drink from a stranger then. You remember at the beginning of this story, they said they didn't accept drinks from strangers, but then they're out there swimming and then someone comes up to them and offers a 2-for-1 drink. So you did take a drink from a stranger then. You did exactly what you said you weren't going to do. You see what I'm saying? Like that, there's certain parts of their story that contradict themselves. And like I said, also like they're being very dramatic in certain news reports where like some of the initial news reports where I saw them, I was like, oh my God, come on. Like they're putting all the trimmings on this the white woman sob story. You know what I mean? And even it's funny because one of the girls, I can't tell which the names of each one, but I can tell one of them is trying to look more downtrodden than her friend, even though when they were both on the trip, they were both made up. Like the other one, like she's trying to look downtrodden too by wearing like a baseball cap, but she has all her makeup on still. The other one has taken the makeup off her face and looks about 20 years older because she's trying to look hard up and just so depressed and so hurt by this situation. So let's listen some more.
I just felt so out of it.
Shearer and Dobson say they lost consciousness and allege that after drinking the drugged cocktails, members of the resort staff sexually assaulted them.
I vaguely remember glimpses of his face. I don't remember all of it. I don't remember everything. But I remembered enough of that he was a staff worker and he had a goatee and he was a local.
He's a Negro. I just know it was a Negro that did it. So that's the basics of the story, right? Now let's listen to what the actual resort has to say about what happened. And footage has come up where these women are going with the guys that they claim sexually assaulted them. Now that could not be, that doesn't necessarily mean that they weren't assaulted, but it looks like they were comfortably going along with these guys. It seemed like they were like hanging out with these guys. It wasn't like a situation where they were being dragged away into some secluded area like they originally said. So let's listen to what they had to say about this.
Who say they were drugged and raped while on vacation in the Bahamas by 2 resort staffers. The 2 friends, covered in cuts and bruises, say it happened on their last day of a 4-day Carnival cruise while they were docked in the Bahamas. But now officials from that resort claim the women's account of what happened does not match their security footage. It all comes from officials from the Bahamas and Jamaica, and right now they're pushing back against U.S. travel warnings. Correspondent Laura Engel joins us live. Laura.
So something else came up with this story because there was obviously the United States gives travel warnings to certain places. We talked about this before with the passport bureaus going to Colombia, but they also issued a warning about the Bahamas, about people being robbed or, drugged there as well. And these women are claiming that they never heard that or they didn't get that from the cruise line or the resort. So I think this is a ploy by them to get a lawsuit against the Carnival Cruise Line and also the resort in the Bahamas. So I think that's what these women want, and the resort is denying that this ever happened. So I think this is more of a legal battle of like civil more than the actual criminal assault, because that doesn't seem to be what anyone's really talking about at this point. Now it's more about trying to get the story straight so these 2 women can get some money out of this resort and out of the Carnival Cruise Lines. Let's listen a little bit more, and then I'll give my other commentary.
You have some new reaction, and this reaction is from local police.
Right. Well, we are now getting dueling stories about this alleged incident, which is not to take away from the very serious allegations from these 2 mothers from Kentucky. But now there are reports that the excursion company that was involved in the women's offshore visit in the Bahamas is disputing their claims, saying they have video that doesn't match up. Now, Amber Shearer and Dengalia Dobson said they were assaulted in broad daylight by staffers. after they were given drugged cocktails, allegedly, during a beach excursion by resort staffers when they made a stop off their Carnival cruise line last weekend. The two say they were ushered to a beach to look for seashells by these staffers when they lost consciousness and woke up to their assaults in progress by two resort employees, they say. A spokesperson for that resort now telling news agencies that the women's account of what happened does not match their security footage. This, as the Royal Bahamian Police Force did issue a statement yesterday saying their investigation and them looking at videos led to the immediate arrest of two adult males connected to this case. So there's two people in custody right now. Sheeran and Dobson, along with their attorney, telling Chris Cuomo earlier this week about the details of their assault, their anger over not being warned. There was a travel advisory for the Bahamas from the U.S. State Department by Carnival Cruise due to increased violence and assault in the Bahamas, in addition to sharing the aftermath of how the authorities in the Bahamas handled them after their alleged rapes occurred. Listen.
So that's it. That's for the news part, because I think the Bahamas obviously does not want this type of press, because the Bahamas depends on tourism for their economy. So they don't want it known that these two white females were sexually assaulted in their island, and that's going to ruin their tourism, right? So they don't want that at all. But like I said, I'm not sure that these women are telling the entire truth. I think the truth is kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's all the way an assault, but I also don't think that, I don't think the resort is also being 100% honest either. So, I'm thinking that what probably really happened was these women, they went there on purpose to have some fun with some black guys, because they are two white females who just wanted to have fun. That's why they didn't take their family, right? They wanted to go down there and have some fun, and they heard about, the Bahamas and what you could get down there, that you can get some BBC. I mean, that's, we all heard about that stuff in like these Caribbean islands where these men are basically prostituting themselves, not just men, but young boys as well. That's another thing that I've mentioned before, about how a lot of young boys who are underage who get taken advantage of sexually by a lot of these women from these first world countries. So that's a whole different story. I think some French studio even made a movie about that. Like, it's like they made like a love story. I was like, that's not a love story. This woman is molesting this little boy in Haiti, and they're making it sound like it's some sort of love story. But no, this does happen. And I think these women heard about that, and they thought that they were going to go down there and have some fun or whatever. And something probably happened, like they got robbed or whatever. So that's where they came up with the sexual assault story. Because then, when they get back and tell their husbands or their families that they got robbed, their husbands are going to be like, what else happened? And so they got to, add the whole sexual assault thing there and show the little bruises on their knees. I think that's very peculiar that they have bruises on their knees, both of them. And that's the thing that they're showing to people, saying that they were sexually assaulted. So, like I said, I don't 100% believe their story. But let me say this to young black men out there, okay? Because this is important, and I love you and respect you, and I don't want you getting caught up in stuff like this. A lot of black men are extremely confused when it comes to any type of relationship, whether it be like a dating relationship or even a sexual relationship with white females, right? I think that because of the porno industry, there is this thing put into black men's minds that white women just all secretly lust after black men, and they want to be with black men, and that it's all good, and you don't have to worry about her turning on you at any point. But you have to understand that even if she does want to have some sort of sexual relations with you, that doesn't mean that she wants to be with you, or she loves you, or that she won't turn you over to the police and accuse you of a crime. Okay? A lot of black men are very confused by that, because they confuse the lust thing, and they think that there's some sort of respect or honor that she has for you. That's not true. Okay, don't confuse lust with having honor and respect. That's two different things. And a lot of black men, like I said, are confused by that, and it mostly comes from the porno industry. The porno industry promotes that whole IR relationship. It's like literally the most popular version of pornography out there. And even over the last, what I want to say, maybe in like the last 20 years or so, they really promote older white females being with young black men. The whole MILF or mature culture content, they promote that a lot. And so you see stuff like that. And now you see where these two women come in. Like you have these two older white women who go down to the Bahamas to have that fantasy. But like I said, it's a fantasy for them. It's not, they don't love you. So of course they can do that with you and still accuse you of a crime, right? And a lot of black men are confused by that. And I don't want black men, whether they be in the Caribbean or here in America, getting caught up with that. All right, just because some white woman is eyeballing you or lusting after you doesn't mean you always have to participate in that. In fact, I would advise you don't, especially in that type of situation, because you can wind up getting yourself in a lot of trouble, and it's really not worth it just to have a tussle in the bed with some lice-infested panties. That you might end up in a world of pain because you decide to go in like that with this white female. There are black men in prison right now who have dealt with white females and are just locked up because of that. Okay, like I said, do not confuse their lust for honor and respect. It's not the same thing. So I'm going to keep an eye on this story because I do think it's interesting and important, especially with the racial component here. And we're going to keep an eye on it and see where it goes to see if these women actually get any type of prosecution on these black men, or if they get the money from the Carnival Cruise Line, the Bahamas. They might just get a payout just to keep quiet and shut up. But I know what probably happened is these girls took some BBC and then probably got robbed by these guys. These guys probably took some of their money or something like that they didn't like. And now they instead of just admitting to what happened, that they got, they have to make up a story about being sexually assaulted. So you folks let me know about what you think about it in the comments section. I very much like to hear your opinions on this story. And once again, this is Mad Black, and I will be back with my foot on a devil's back.